The floor of the Gravsim arena groaned under the weight of 100 different lifeforms. Steel plates hummed faintly beneath their feet, calibrated to simulate lunar gravity, perfect for speed drills, poor for balance. Lira Hoshino stood at the edge of the training circle, her boots anchored, her gaze steady. A thud echoed as a Torak beast slammed a Rasian cadet into the mat, leaving behind a deep purple smear and the bitter scent of ozone and blood. The instructor, Commander V, didn't blink. "Reset," he barked. "Next." Whispers flitted through the air like static. "They're pairing the humans again? Why do they even try? Soft blood should be in diplomacy, not war." Lira didn't flinch. She had heard it all before, every variation of the same insult wrapped in different dialects. She adjusted the gloves on her hands, ensuring the synthetic muscles didn't trigger too early. Timing mattered. Across the chamber, Zarak-Thul reclined on a slab of obsidian alloy, flanked by his pack. The Utari cadet exuded arrogance, his forearms folded, his eyes narrow slits of molten gold. "She hasn't even fought once this cycle," he said aloud, voice dripping with disdain. "Maybe she's here to clean the floor after we're done bleeding on it." Snickers rippled through the surrounding aliens. Lira ignored them. Commander Via's voice cut through the noise. "Final match, Hoshino vs. Zarak-Thul." Lira stepped forward. Her opponent was a Krenari brute, thick-shelled, 8-limbed, and twice her size. It chittered in amusement as she bowed slightly. "No dismemberment," V reminded. "Begin." The Krenari lunged. Lira didn't meet it head-on. She sidestepped, barely brushing the outer edge of its reach. The audience booed. Another dodge. Another calculated breath. On the third approach, she tapped its knee joint, not a strike, just data collection. 2 more feints. Then she swept her leg under its pivot foot, spun into a roll, and placed a light tap against its thorax's nerve cluster. The Krenari froze, then collapsed, stunned. Silence followed. Commander V blinked once. "Match to Hoshino." No applause. Just stunned blinking. Lira bowed again and walked back to her place. "That wasn't combat," Zarak shouted. "That was luck. You danced until it fell asleep." "She never hit it hard," another cadet agreed. "She poked it like a med drone." V frowned. "Technique is not brute force. Results are what matter." Zarak smirked. "Then let's see how her technique does when she faces real power." Later that night, the cadets gathered around the holoboard displaying the randomized brackets for the upcoming non-lethal sparring tournament. Lights flickered in anticipation. The system drew names from all 194 cadets. Lira stood in the back, arms folded, expression unreadable. Lines connected names. Alien symbols flashed. Then, in Terran Standard. Round 1, Hoshino, human, versus Zarak-Thul, Utari. The crowd roared. "Perfect." Zarak's grin widened. "Now we'll see if your pokes can save you, Terran." Someone started taking bets. Odds open at 103 to 1. Lira was the one. She turned quietly and left the crowd. The corridor outside was dimly lit, silent but for the hum of the oxygen recyclers. A janitor bopped past her, pausing just long enough to scan her biometrics. She ignored it. Her footsteps echoed as she walked to the empty observation deck above the sim arena. It overlooked the space field, ships docked like floating scars against the void. Her breath fogged against the reinforced glass. "You don't have to fight him," a voice said behind her. She didn't turn. It was Commander V. The reptilian veteran stepped beside her, his claws tucked behind his back. "Zarak is a killer. He broke a Drekkin's spine last cycle." Lira's eyes stayed on the stars. "You won't stop the match?" "You know I can't. Not unless you withdraw." "I won't." V was silent for a moment. "Why?" Her fingers clenched. "Because someone like him once killed someone like my brother." The commander's jaw tightened. He nodded once and walked away, boots clicking like ticking clock hands. Back in the dormitory, her bunkmates, 2 other human cadets, watched her as she entered. "You really gonna fight him?" one asked. "We can talk to the committee." "I'll be fine," Lira said simply. They didn't press further. She lay down, staring at the low steel ceiling. Her mind wasn't on Zarak. It was on movement. On balance. On the rhythm of breath, joint, strike. Her brother's voice echoed in memory. "They don't expect silence. They expect screams. Use that." The next morning, the arena was abuzz. Word had spread. The mute human girl was going up against the apex. Spectators filled the seats, faculty, upper-year cadets, even interplanetary ambassadors observing. Lira arrived early. She stood alone in the prep zone, wrapping her wrists with synthetic filament. Her hands were steady. Zarak strutted in, draped in his ceremonial warhide. His laugh filled the arena. "This won't take long. Try not to cry." Lira didn't answer. She bowed slightly, eyes locked onto his center of gravity. The bell hadn't rung yet. But in her head, it already had. The academy halls were quieter at night, less noise, fewer eyes. But the pressure didn't ease with silence. Lira walked with measured steps through the auxiliary corridor, her mind already inside the ring, inside the fight. She reached a sealed hatch labeled Subtraining Chamber D3. A disused gravity shaft, abandoned since a reactor leak 5 years ago. She keyed in the old access code, fingers moving from memory. The door hissed open. Stale, recycled air met her face. Inside, the chamber was vast, circular, lit only by emergency wall glows. The grav field here was slightly unstable, perfect for control training. One misstep meant a broken ankle, or worse. She stepped into the center, unstrapped her academy boots, and let her bare feet settle into the cold titanium floor. She closed her eyes and inhaled deeply. The emptiness around her was familiar. "Welcome." Her stance widened. She raised one hand, then the other, fingers poised in a forgotten form. Not the flashy movements the academy taught. Not the brute force slams of the Utari. Something older. Quieter. Heaven's pulse. That's what her brother called it. A technique banned under interspecies combat regulations. Not because it was lethal, but because it was surgical. Precise. Impossible to block. In the wrong hands, it ended fights before they started. She remembered his voice as he demonstrated. "Focus doesn't live in your fists, Lira. It lives between your heartbeat and your enemy's breath." The movement began. Slow arcs through air, each shift in weight balancing motion and intent. Her breath synced with her motion, inhale, step, pivot, strike, exhale. A shadow moved above. A hovering maintenance drone paused, scanned her briefly, and continued on. It didn't recognize the form. It didn't log it. Good. Morning came fast. The academy buzzed like a hive. Betting lines climbed to 119:1. Lira's odds were a joke, even among the Terrans. They should pull her from the fight, one human cadet whispered to another. "This is suicide. I heard Zarak train on the blood fields of Rovelix. She's toast." Lira passed through the crowds without acknowledgement. She walked past the dining hall, untouched tray in her hand, and slid into a quiet corner. Her fingers rested around the cup, but she didn't sip. Her eyes were fixed on the wall, unblinking, unreadable. A group of upper-year Draken cadets passed by. One of them snorted. "She'll last 10 seconds. Maybe 12 if Zarak plays with her first." Their laughter faded. Lira's grip didn't tighten. Her face remained still. But inside, her focus sharpened. Later that afternoon, she sat on a steel bench near the observation dome. Alone. The stars shimmered beyond the transparent dome, indifferent to the academy's politics. She liked that about them. Footsteps approached, measured, soft. Instructor Kilos. A veteran from the Martian frontier. one of the few who didn't speak unnecessarily. He stopped beside her, holding a data tablet. "I reviewed your previous match," he said. She stayed quiet. "Your movement pattern was deliberate. Non-linear. Unreadable." Still no reply. He sighed and tapped the tablet off. "They're expecting you to panic." "You won't." She looked up. "Why?" "Because silence isn't fear. It's calculation." He walked off, boots echoing faintly behind him. Night came again. Lira returned to the empty gravity shaft. She didn't need more training. She needed clarity. She stood in the dark, listening to her heartbeat. One strike. That's all she had. One chance to hit the neural nexus, just under Zarak's secondary clavicle. Hard to reach. Nearly impossible in a real fight. But not if he overcommit. She whispered aloud, testing her own voice. "Breathe in." She shifted left. "Breathe out." "Strike." She repeated it. Again. And again. Each time more precise. Each time smoother. Until the words no longer mattered. At dawn, a message blinked on her datapad. "Tournament protocol reminder, your match begins at 1100 standard hours. Report to Arena Sector 1. All injuries are to be reported post-match." She slid the datapad into her locker and closed it without expression. Across the room, another human cadet, a bulky boy from Luna, watched her. "Don't let him bait you," he said. She glanced sideways. "He'll want you angry," he added. "You stay calm, you've already won half the fight." She nodded once. As the hour approached, cadets filled the viewing decks. Some recorded vids. Others watched silently, unsure if this was execution or spectacle. The arena prepped. Combat drones buzzed through the sky, adjusting holographic barriers and gravity dampeners. The betting line froze at 137:1. Zarak entered first, arms raised, six eyes flashing. The crowd roared. Then Lira stepped through the gates. No cheers. No boos. Just a hush. She wore no armor. No decorative plating. Just standard-issue Academy gear and a ribbon around her wrist, blue, frayed, old. She looked across the arena. Zarak smirked. "Ready to die quietly, Terran?" She didn't blink. He turned to the crowd. "I will show you what power looks like." She stared at his feet. Not his face. Not his chest. His feet. The announcer's voice crackled. "Match begins in 10 seconds. She exhaled once. Cleared her mind. 9. 8. Zarak cracked his neck. 7. 6. Lira took a step forward. 5. The arena quieted. 4. 3. 2. 1. Bell. The moment the bell rang, Zarak-Thul exploded forward. For muscular arms pumping, clawed feet crushing the simulated terrain beneath him. He moved like a missile. Brutal. Fast. Predictable. Lira didn't move. She simply waited. His first strike, a wide backhand, whistled through the air where her head had been a second ago. She ducked low, twisted sideways, and shifted her center of gravity just enough to let the momentum pass. He grinned. Slippery. She remained silent. The crowd roared in anticipation. Even the instructors leaned forward in their seats, sensing blood. Zarak feinted with his upper arms and brought his lower ones down in a double hammer fist. Lira pivoted on one foot, letting his limbs hit the mat with a hollow thud. Still no strike from her. She circled. Studying. He snarled. "Fight me." She didn't. Zarak charged again, this time, wild and angry. That was what she needed. Emotion. Commitment. Overreach. He lunged with all four arms, jaws wide in triumph. That's when she moved. One breath. One pivot. Her right heel lifted slightly as she ducked under his arms. Her left palm extended. Her fingers compressed at the exact moment her hips snapped forward. Impact. A dull, muted thud, not loud, not dramatic. But precise. Her strike landed just below his clavicle, on the Utari neural nexus. A millisecond of pressure. That's all. Zarak's body froze mid-motion. His limbs stopped mid-swing, suspended in sudden paralysis. The arena fell silent. Lira stepped back, her posture controlled, hands lowered. Zarak wavered. His knees buckled. Then he collapsed. Flat. Still. For 3 seconds, no one moved. Then a single voice echoed through the arena, medical drone, now. A red light blinked. A drone descended, scanning the fallen cadet. Pulse steady. Consciousness intact. Temporary neuromotor disruption. Estimated paralysis duration, 37.2 seconds. The instructor's expression tightened. Lira turned and walked toward the edge of the mat. Still no words. No bow. No gesture of triumph. Just silence. Behind her, the drone activated a recovery gel patch over Zarak's chest. He blinked rapidly, trying to move. He couldn't. The crowd remained frozen. Then the murmur started. She hit him once. Was that even possible? How did she know? The scoreboard updated. Winner, Hoshino, Lira. Gasps followed. Then shouts. Then a sudden surge of voices, dozens at once. But Lira was already gone. She left the arena through the service tunnel, past the cleaning drones and flickering light panels. Her footsteps echoed against cold alloy. Commander V waited by the exit, arms folded. He didn't speak immediately. He just looked at her, expression unreadable. "You do realize what you just did?" he asked finally. She nodded. "That strike." "Banned," she said softly. "Efficient," he corrected. "And absolutely beautiful." For the first time in days, she almost smiled. News spread fast. By evening, the Academy's Interspecies Board had scheduled a hearing. Not to punish Lira, but to evaluate her technique. Humans, previously dismissed as auxiliary diplomats or research personnel, had become the center of attention. Offers poured in. Mentorships. Combat unit invitations. Tactical development programs. And the betting pools? Collapsed. No one saw it coming. The odds of 137:1 had wiped out half the Academy's student currency. One Draken cadet made enough from a 10-credit bet to upgrade his living quarters. Later, in the dorms, a pair of human cadets approached her. "You really did it," the girl said. "You dropped the apex." "I didn't drop him," Lira replied. "He fell." The boy laughed. Semantics, legend. They sat beside her, no longer out of pity, but out of curiosity. Maybe even respect. "Where'd you learn that strike?" the girl asked. Lira looked down at the blue ribbon tied around her wrist. "My brother," she said. "He called it Heaven's Pulse." Sounds poetic. It's not. It's practical. The ribbon fluttered slightly as she moved her hand. Zarak-Thul recovered within the hour. The first thing he did was storm out of the med bay, roaring in frustration. But the roar didn't carry the same weight anymore. No one mocked Lira now. No one spoke over her. In fact, they barely spoke around her at all. She had become something rare in the Academy, a myth while still breathing. The next day, her instructor posted new pairings. No one volunteered to spar with her. Commander V stood beside the bracket, smirking slightly. "Suddenly unpopular, Hoshino?" She tilted her head. "Not my goal." "No. But it's a useful side effect." She returned to the observation dome that evening, staring into the stars. the academy behind her buzzed with altered energy. New respect. New fear. But she didn't want any of it. This was never about status. It was about the memory of a boy who believed humans could be more than prey. A brother who had trained her in secret, who had whispered truths when the galaxy shouted lies. She touched the ribbon again. "You were right," she whispered. The stars didn't answer. They never did. But for the first time, they felt a little closer.